How did a small, rain-soaked island off the coast of Europe end up ruling over a quarter of the world's land and nearly a third of its people? The story of the British Empire isn't just about red lines on a map or dusty history books. It's a tale packed with ambition, secrets, and consequences that still shape our world today. Most people think of Britain as just another European country, but its influence stretches far beyond its own borders, echoing in languages, laws, and even the foods we eat. Yet, behind the grandeur and the famous phrase, "the sun never sets," on the British Empire, there are stories that rarely get told. Stories of lost colonies, mysterious disappearances, and the dark deals that built an empire. What really drove Britain's rise to power, and why do so many of its former colonies still feel the impact today? As we peel back the layers of history, you'll discover that the legacy of the British Empire is far more complicated and controversial than you might think. And the real story? It's only just beginning. Long before the world recognized Britain as a global superpower, the seeds of its empire were sown in a land divided by rival kingdoms and fierce ambitions. England, the dominant force in the British Isles, didn't simply emerge overnight. It clawed its way to power, absorbing Wales and parts of Ireland through a mix of military might and political maneuvering. But to the north, Scotland stood defiant. A proud nation that refused to bow to English rule, fighting off repeated invasions and forging its own identity. This tension between England and Scotland would simmer for centuries, shaping the very foundation of what would become the United Kingdom. Meanwhile, the English crown was already looking outward, hungry for new lands and untapped riches. Adventurers and explorers, driven by dreams of glory and profit, set sail under royal commissions, hoping to claim distant territories before rival European powers could get there first. Yet these early efforts were anything but smooth. The first English colony in North America, Roanoke, ended in a chilling mystery when its settlers vanished without a trace, a puzzle that still haunts historians today. Even as England's ambitions grew, the path to empire was anything but certain, marked by setbacks, resistance, and the relentless drive to expand at any cost. And as the pieces of the British Isles slowly came together, the stage was set for an empire unlike any the world had ever seen. The first attempts at building an overseas empire were anything but triumphant. England's early colonial experiments were marked by failure, mystery, and a surprising amount of risk. The infamous Roanoke colony, established in 1585, became one of history's greatest unsolved disappearances. An entire settlement vanished, leaving behind only a cryptic carving as a clue. But these setbacks didn't stop the English crown from pushing forward. Instead, they sparked a new approach, harnessing the power of private enterprise. Enter the joint stock companies, a revolutionary idea for the time. The East India Company, founded in 1600, wasn't just a trading business. It was a corporate giant with its own army, ships, and the authority to wage war or broker peace. These companies were granted monopolies over vast regions, giving them the power to shape the destinies of entire continents. Yet, behind the scenes, their methods were often ruthless, driven by profit and unchecked ambition. The Levant Company and others followed suit, setting up trading posts and forging alliances, but also fueling rivalries and conflicts that would echo for centuries. These early ventures laid the groundwork for Britain's global reach, but they also planted the seeds of controversy and exploitation that would haunt the empire's legacy. And as England's appetite for expansion grew, so did the stakes, setting the stage for even greater ambitions and even greater risks. The path to empire was never a straight line, and nowhere was this clearer than in the Union and the underlying tensions between England and Scotland. While England's colonial ambitions were gaining momentum, Scotland's own attempt at overseas expansion ended in disaster. The infamous Darien Scheme of 1698, where Scottish investors poured their hopes and fortunes into a colony on the Isthmus of Panama, collapsed almost overnight. Disease, starvation, and relentless Spanish attacks left the survivors broken and the nation financially crippled. The fallout was so severe that many in Scotland saw union with England as their only way forward. In 1707, the Acts of Union officially merged the two kingdoms, creating Great Britain. But this new alliance was built on shaky ground, with old resentments simmering beneath the surface. As Britain emerged from this uneasy partnership, it found itself locked in a series of wars with France and Spain. These conflicts weren't just about European rivalries. They were battles for global dominance. Each victory brought new territories: Gibraltar, Newfoundland, and vast stretches of North America and the Caribbean. War became a tool for expansion, and the spoils of victory fueled Britain's growing empire. Yet every new conquest brought fresh challenges, from governing distant lands to managing the ambitions of powerful trading companies. The union of England and Scotland may have created a new superpower, but it also set the stage for centuries of internal conflict and external competition. And as Britain's reach extended across the globe, the true cost of empire was only beginning to reveal itself. Behind the dazzling growth of the British Empire lay a much darker reality, one built on exploitation, ruthless commerce, and human suffering. The transatlantic slave trade became a cornerstone of Britain's wealth, with the Royal African Company at the center of a brutal network that trafficked millions of people across the ocean. Ships packed with enslaved Africans sailed to the Caribbean and the Americas, fueling the sugar, tobacco, and cotton industries that lined the pockets of British merchants and aristocrats. Even today, debates rage over the true scale of this legacy, with calls for reparations and public apologies growing louder each year, but the slave trade was only one part of the empire's shadowy machinery. The East India Company, originally a trading venture, transformed into a corporate juggernaut with its own private armies and the power to topple rulers. In India, the company's relentless pursuit of profit led to wars, famines, and the reshaping of entire societies. Reports from the time and recent investigations suggest that corruption, violence, and manipulation were common tools of empire. The company's influence grew so vast that it often acted as a state within a state, answering only to its shareholders and the British Crown. As Britain's global reach expanded, so did the controversies. From the forced labor on Caribbean, plantations to the exploitation of resources in Africa and Asia, the empire's economic engine was fueled by practices that would spark outrage today. And while some celebrate the era as a time of progress and innovation, others see it as a legacy of injustice that still demands accountability. The debate over Britain's imperial past is far from settled, and the echoes of these dark chapters continue to shape conversations about power, privilege, and responsibility in the modern world.